We're discussing the state of affairs in Afghanistan, and we've all seen those horrible images. And joining me is Adam Korzeniewski, a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps and a former member of the Trump administration. Adam, thank you again for joining me to shed some American light, if you will, on what's going on. Before the break, we were discussing how you suggested that the Afghan government was really a house of cards. It was going to fall. It was being propped up, I think you used the word academics, by academics running the country where arms kind of spoke. The U.S., Canada, NATO, I mean, billions and billions was spent to train, to equip the Afghan army, to train with NGOs on democratic political measures, because that is what we understood that Afghan people wanted. Where is all that training now?
So, in terms of the military side of it, some of it clearly went to the Taliban, as you're seeing with videos of the Taliban flying helicopters now around Afghanistan. Some of it went to now the rebellious factions in Afghanistan that are opposing the Taliban. A lot of it just kind of disappeared into the dust, right? And this is the big thing that you have to stop thinking like a Westerner once you go abroad for the most part, but specifically, especially in Afghanistan. They're barely, like, people are barely getting by there. Child mortality rate's very, very high there. And so when you're not addressing fundamental issues to their way of life, their ability to have a life, right. You're actually just spinning your wheels. Like, we didn't really do the basics. Like, they don't care about democracy. They don't necessarily even have a word for it in Pashtun. Like, it's a foreign concept. But what they do know is when, like, their family member dies because of smoke inhalation because of a fire in their house, while they're cooking.
Right. So would it be appropriate to suggest then this was just way over everybody's head? This was an impossible task? Yeah.
So people started taking their very extremely liberal, extremely westernized opinions and trying to implement them on a place that doesn't care, because it's more interested. It's more in the subsistence type of lifestyle.
Okay, you mentioned that, because I was speaking more like theoretically on the concept of democracy, but you mentioned that now various arms, et cetera, have fallen into the hands of the Taliban, which I'm sure is the exact opposite that people would have wanted. But let me go through some numbers here. So again, the U.S. has left behind a stockpile of equipment, according to the New York Post, that includes 600,000 assault rifles, some 2,000 armored vehicles, 40 aircraft, including Black Hawks. Afghanistan has gone from the 93rd strongest air force in the world, basically last, to 26th. Why was all this equipment left there? Can you square that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So we left it there for the Afghan army to use against the Taliban. And the Afghan army just crumbled. There's a member of the British Parliament had this very long speech about the fact that he served and fought with the Afghans. And the problem is, like, he has this very rose-tinted image of this. A lot of people have this idea that the Afghan army was this honorable, glorious thing. And there was units in the Afghan army who fought well, who still continue fighting to this day. But for the most part, most of them just crumbled when the Taliban pressured it. In terms of in terms of my personal interests, like, this is me speaking, not the United States speaking. I'm more concerned about the United States leaving all those dogs behind than any of the weapons there. The weapons are going to crumble and collapse under the extreme attritional environment there. It takes a lot of infrastructure to maintain these heavy wheeled vehicles and the aircraft.
Okay, well, that offers me some comfort knowing that all this high-tech equipment will only maybe be utilized in a very short period of time. Because, but I have heard reports, and I've read this in the news, that they might not just the weapons, but really it's the Black Hawks we're talking about. They may be sold in deals to the Chinese or the Russians.
So, like, these are like 1980s tier Black Hawks. The Chinese and Russians already have them. In fact, I can't remember the name of it. It's basically there's a name for it, but it's nicknamed in Chinese the copy Black Hawk or the copy Hawk. And it's basically like their main Chinese transport helicopter, their light transport helicopter, looks almost identical to the US version because it's like such a ubiquitous design.
Okay, we only have 30 seconds left, so I've got to cut to the big question, which is, how's this going to impact President Biden and his legacy, if anything?
It's going to be a black mark on his legacy, and it's going to create more pressures internationally on him. A lot of countries are taking notice of what's going on, and they sense weakness.
My goodness. Well, it was good to have you on. We're going to have you on again because things just keep changing there in Afghanistan. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.